Welcome back to Boiler House Garage and to part 9 of our series on the Fiesta ST 180. In today's video we're going to be fitting one of these. It is a VUDU rear engine mount. This is designed to take out some slop you get for like wheel juddering and bouncing that you can get apparently under load. To be honest, I haven't noticed much of that because of the traction control on, you don't get much in the way of wheel spin. With it off, because it hasn't got a limited slip differential, you find you just send power to one wheel or the other, and I just notice wheel spin more than any sort of juddering. But what I'm hoping this does is take out some of the slop I get when I'm engaging the clutch. Sometimes if you sat in traffic lights, go into first, pull away, you can sort of feel a lot of sort of slack in the drivetrain. Whether that has anything to do with the rear engine mount, I couldn't tell you. The way to find out is to actually fit one. I got this second hand off eBay. I think the seller originally said that they didn't like the vibration, which is the sort of compromise of having one of these. If you stiffen up the engine mounts, obviously you get some more vibration transferred to the monocoque chassis itself. Apparently the VUDU one is probably one of the better ones of the bunch, including Mountune as well as quite a good one. Apparently Revo or Revo, however it's pronounced, that's better for track car, racing applications, because that one's a lot more brutal. You do get a lot more vibration when the engine's idling, so that's not ideal for fast road use. Also going to try a couple of things. I'm going to actually drive this with it like hand tight and then tighten it up to a higher torque specification. I think VUDU as well, they only recommend what did they say? I think it was 18 Newton meters or something like that. It's actually quite loosely torqued, but other manufacturers, they have 28 to 30 Newton meters, so we'll experiment with both. But first of all, to jack the car up, a little tip here: if you are working sort of on the lower side of your engine, you can actually pop the bonnet, lift that up, and then of course you'll get the sunlight coming through to certain areas that might just help you see things a little better under there. Look what I've done. Uh-oh. These have done like 10,000 miles. I've only had them on a year. Whoops. See the other side. Yes. Now we've got 2 mil this side, 1 mil the other. So I'd only get 3 points, but yep. New pair of Goodyears, please. Yeah, despite my service schedule, you can't exactly say I've been looking after this car, because this was my fault too. I've got a load of score marks in this, well, in the bottom of the bumper. It's not even a splitter. The car's not lowered. What happened here was I had basically a job to do where I had to take a car transporter, a van with a flatbed on the back, to an MOT test centre. So to get back, I thought, well, because it's a car transporter, I can load the Fiesta onto it and drive it to its destination, take the Fiesta off, and I've got my own car, I can just head straight back. But unfortunately, I tried slowly going up the ramps forward and felt a little bit of a catch on these two sides. So I thought, oh, the car's, even though it's not lowered, it's not going on this transporter. So I thought, oh, what I'll try is reversing it up. And reversing it did clear these, however it didn't clear this. But of course I still needed to get the car on, so I just carefully tried to drive up and do as little damage as possible. But yeah, so oh well, at least it's underneath and most people won't see it. Oh, hang on, I've just put it on YouTube. Right, ladies and gents, just so you have your bearings right. Well, most of you will be gents, I'm sure, but I do actually know a lady mechanic. I work with her a couple of days a week, a very lovely girl. Yes, fortunately I'm not lovely, so I wouldn't have a chance in a million years. Right, this is what we're looking for. This is your rear engine mount. This is your gearbox on the left side of the car as you're facing forwards. And you can see the shape is similar to the VUDU one. If you buy one of these new, this sticky out bit, it's like a long, this sticky out bit here, it's like a long pin. You have to press that in there yourself. It's a little bit tight. You should be able to start it off by hand, maybe use a little bit of silicone lube, and then use a vice or just gently with a hammer. Don't whack it in, but you can like put like a washer on here first, or a socket or something that's the same size. You just gently tap around the edge just to push that in, or if you're ultra professional you might have a press. So I haven't done one of these before, but when you do things like engine and gearbox mounts, you usually find if you just undo most of these bolts, what you'll find is the last one, as you're trying to undo it, the whole engine and box will be rattling around. So a recommendation which I'll be using myself here is to loosen all of these. It looks like this bracket's part of it. Yep, it is. There's something behind it actually. It's like a gasket or something. Yeah, I'm going to loosen all of these, and then that way it will give you an idea of which ones are going to move the most. I have a sneaky suspicion this will move quite a lot, so if you loosen or took this one out, you probably wouldn't be able to undo this. So but yeah, I'm going to start on that. These all look like 13mm. These are those like top hat style ones, so this will you'll probably need to use a longer socket, so that's what I'm going to do next. Oops. I'm not sure if you saw how well it came out on camera, but this nut here is, well, it's a bolt, sorry, is a lot tighter than the others, so you can start with that one, and ideally don't use a deep socket on this one because you want the shorter one to get better torque here, because it slipped off on me and you end up rounding them off. It hasn't done any damage to this, thankfully, but something you want to avoid. So this spaced piece here, and this is the gasket thing that I was questioning earlier, because this is the catalytic converter. Obviously there's a lot of heat generated here, so this is obviously just for a heat shield to stop it transferring obviously to the rest of the car. If you're scum of the earth and you steal people's catalytic converters, this is where it is on the Fiesta ST, so good luck trying to get to that with an angle grinder before somebody drops the car on your head or smacks you over the head with a crowbar, which is still better than you deserve. I took this out because it was basically the strongest, well, it's the tightest bolt. I've left that one in for now because it does get a bit disconcerting with the engine and gearbox assembly moving a little bit while you're led under it, but don't worry, it won't actually fall on you. It is more of a support mount more, than a damping mount than the one that actually holds the engine in. Yeah, so just got to take these two out. They're probably one's longer than the other, I'd imagine, looking at it. So yeah, don't muddle those up. I'm not quite done with the unscrewing yet. It appears there's more behind this. So that bracket out of the way. Ugh, something now. We have to undo these two to get this bracket off, which is actually pressed in. Yeah, it looks like that's going to come away with the engine mount, but of course we need to reuse that with the new one. So still 13s. Yeah, that's got like a spacer on it. So this one's longer, and yeah, for reference, it's the one at the back, closest to the fatter part of the engine mount.
know that part where I said the engine and gearbox can't fall on your face? I may have been mistaken. Somebody call me an ambulance.
Just kidding. In fact, that's prompts me for another Rick's top tip. Even if you're not filming under a car or need to use the light on your mobile phone, if you're working by yourself, bring your mobile phone under the car with you, obviously in a protective case, just in case anything falls on it. But the idea is if you get trapped or in trouble, you can call for help.
If there's any trouble, you make a phone call.
Just one-handed. There we go. That's just the old mount out. Right, so that's how the this bracket thing has to fit on the new mount. So it would obviously go here. So we just need to get this off of the old one. I'm just going to use a vice and a hammer mallet, something along those lines. Ah, ow!
Try again.
Oh, I missed.
Never take your eyes off your opponent. What was that? An exhibition? Now why doesn't somebody pull a 45 and bang, settle it? Oh, don't hit back.
Of course, being a mounting bracket, it's full of bushings, so it's just taking the impact of what I'm giving it. Who put this camera here?
You know, baby.
Aha! Here we are then.
I must leave.
Before and after. I don't know how well this is shown up on camera either, but this was covered in, well, not said covered, it wasn't too bad, but there was a bit of muck on here, so I just cleaned it up with some Sillet Bang. Bang! And the dirt is gone. They still show those adverts, you know, Barry Scott and all that. I don't know. So I don't think this actually needs pressing on or anything, it's just the bolt going in there holding it on, so we can just have this in place here. I'm going to just add a little dab of grease, because you never know, somebody, may even myself, if I find this is too vibratey or something in the car, we'll need to take it off in future or for other work. I don't know what has to come off to do a clutch change, and I think I'm going to be due for one of those in the not so distant future. All of the bolts I'm putting back in and a little bit on here. I'm just going to put a dab of grease just to make things a little bit easier with removal. Further to what I was saying about greasing up the bolts as they go back in, I've noticed obviously we've got sort of three different, not issues, but things to consider here. A polyurethane bush is basically going to sit in this main thing here, so rather than use multi-purpose grease, I thought what I'll use is silicone grease, because we always opt for silicone with things like rubber and polyurethane hoses in an engine bay, but because basically the silicone doesn't react with anything, it might not be quite as good for protection and lubrication as multi-purpose grease, lithium grease, and of course copper grease. With copper grease, because this is an exhaust part, this is obviously going to get very hot, so I'm going to use copper grease on here rather than the lithium grease, but everything else will be the same. So obviously if you don't have all these range of things, and don't worry too much about it, I'm sure you can either forgo all of it or just use one particular type. I'm sure it won't actually cause any major issues. I've probably mentioned this before, but I'm trying to use this comma grease up, but I've got so much of this stuff. The plastic tubs, I've got the metal containers, and that are brilliant. I've got a couple of those, but I want to use these up first because they always split. These are so that this one's split at the bottom, it's leaking out everywhere, and then yeah, this one's split at the top. So yeah, I'm not going to be buying any of the. There's nothing wrong with the comma product itself. It's just the containers are crap. So something to consider if you're at a shop and that. If you can get the metal ones, better suited for purpose. Blimey. truth. One on here then. Thing's a bit of a buster. Let's do nothing. Right, no grease. So be careful how you handle me. There's a mark you leave, like a little heart of cemetery. What have I been listening to? Was it that one? Yeah. So apart from the bracket that's going on the catalytic converter here, that is the mounting in place. Like you saw earlier, I did actually have to whack this in with quite a bit of force. These bracket here, whatever it's called, is mounting point was obviously closer than it should be, but of course it was an original part. So to be honest, I'm thinking that when people fit these and have issues, well, they find the vibration too much. I think it may more be caused by the fact that this is too tight, and I have done both of these up. I probably shouldn't have done to about 30 Newton meters, so any of the stretching that I did to try and pull these away a little bit has probably been undone now, so I might experience that. We'll find out on a test drive and test start. So I'll just get this bracket on now. It's there is like an adjustment on here, but I don't think it's something. It's just so it goes on. I think it was roughly in the middle. You can see the marks where the nuts were previously, or top hats, whatever they're called. So yeah, I think you could probably like move the engine and box up and down just a little bit maybe, but I don't think that's actually designed to have any set adjustment on there. So I'll refit that and be straight back with you. So that's this bracket on now. I don't think it's got anything to do with the actual damping of the engine and gearbox. I think it is just a support for the catalytic converter, and like most exhaust components, it's probably this adjustment's just because for some reason exhaust and that they never quite fit the same way on every car, even if it's the same part. So I imagine that's all that is. Let's get the car back on the ground. So here's some before and afters. The engine starting. I've just done a gearbox oil change as well, hence that big oil splat to the right here. This is before, trying to pull away in first. Followed by after. Before in reverse. And again for after. Please stay tuned for the next video, which I'll be uploading immediately after this one, of me giving an opinion on this on a test drive. Thanks very much for watching.